Hello, and welcome to the Ag Culture Podcast, where we cultivate tomorrow by inspiring agripreneurs and ag innovators through real-life perspectives in agriculture. I'm Paul Windemuller, your host on this journey of exploration and growth. On today's episode, I had the pleasure of interviewing Jace Young, who is the CEO and founder of Legacy Farmer. Jace started Legacy Farmer back in 2019 after 6 years of being a banker and after experiencing the loss of his family farm. Now, I've followed Jace and his business growth for a number of years now and been very impressed with the work that he's doing and the systems that he's building out to support people and farmers in their businesses and how to progress and continue to excel in what they're doing. I know you're going to enjoy hearing the nuggets of wisdom that Jace shares with us on today's episode. So take a listen and enjoy today's episode with Jace Young. Hey everyone, before we get started with today's episode, I just wanted to take a second to thank our sponsors, Bank Barn. I love these guys and what they're doing to streamline banking and agriculture. They're helping to connect farmers and lenders so that today's farmers have more options no matter the size of operation. Check out bankbarn.io to learn more. Jace Young, welcome to the Ag Culture Podcast. It's very good to have you here today.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you inviting me on and look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, you have a wealth of knowledge in the farm consulting business, as well as being a recovering banker. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess that would be an accurate way to put it, yes.
Well, what did that journey look like when it first started? I know you have some farm background, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess, it's important to really understand how Legacy Farmer created and really just a sequence of events. So that really had to take place in order for us to get to this point. I'm a religious guy and everything like that. And, when I look back at some of the things that took place and just the perfect timing that had to take place, I feel like, everything that I'm doing now was perfectly a part of God's plan the entire time. And so, yeah, I think it's important too for your listeners just to understand where I come from and everything there. So I'll just start there. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. So, again, Jace Young grew up in Western Kansas, a small town called Tribune, had about 900 people in the town. Graduating class was 21, right? So we had one stoplight in town, and it wasn't even like a legit stoplight. It was a flashing one, as you're probably very well familiar with. But I grew up 20 miles north of town there at our feed yard. And so grew up on a big family farm operation. It was my granddad started it back in the 1950s. And then my dad worked and built out the feed yard side of the operation. And then I had two uncles that farmed several thousand acres of ground that we had. And then I had two aunts that worked in the office because we had a grain elevator and facility as well that we managed there. But I grew up working cattle my entire life. So our feed yard held 14,000 head of cattle. So that's what I grew up doing. So I always laugh today at the memes around, people apologizing for what they said when they were working cattle because it's so true. And you see those things. Only a guy that grew up or a gal that grew up on the feed yard would understand what those are about for sure. But yeah, so grew up, working there and experiencing farm life. Unfortunately, in the summer of 2005, the entire thing went under, right? So my granddad's life's work for 50 some years that he started back in the 50s was basically gone in about a 6-month period. I remember the time like it was yesterday because I came in and we only lived a half mile away from the feed yard. So out our back window, my dad always sat at the kitchen table there because out the back window, just half mile away, was the feed yard, right? And basically his life's work, he was there. He started sorting pins, I remember, at age 5, and the feed yard went under when he was 45, right? So he built his entire life there. Him and my mom got married when they were 17 and 15 and never left Tribune, Kansas. So very, very old school story there. But I remember the day like it was yesterday because I walked in the house. I went to basketball camp and just getting ready for my junior year of high school and walked in the door and he looked at me and he just said, everything's done. And so he had kind of, I knew there were some problems and stuff leading up to that point, but you could just see the pain in his eyes. But more importantly, like there was an identity that left him in that moment. There was, fear and everything like that he was going through. So essentially, yeah, the feed yard went under. And that was in 2005, had the farm sale. I think it was the end of 2005, maybe the first part of 2006. And had to be there with my parents when they had to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy and move out of their house that they raised their kids in for 30 years. And we moved on from there. But following that experience, though, I went to college like everybody else, and then I got into ag banking. And what was really unique about that was growing up on the farm with the family and everything like that, you understand from an operational standpoint, the challenges that come to working with family, trying to run the operation. We had 15 employees just on the feed yard side of things, right? So there was a big team over there that my dad had led for, a few decades. And you see all the collisions there, right? You see all the fights, you see all the problems, you see all the disagreements and stuff like that. Once I stepped into the bank, though, this was perfect for me because it took me full circle to where now I got to look at these operations through a financial lens, right? And understand how people were making decisions, but also too, even looking at our operation, I could see things that my granddad did that ultimately I could put the pieces together as to why we went under, and the lack of information he had or the lack of financial knowledge he had, just based on what the market, how the market environment operated today and all the different variables that were in play and all this type of stuff that ultimately sunk the operation. But spent 6 years roughly as an ag loan officer there, and working with farmers and ranchers. And again, everything that I noticed with my grandfather, I noticed with all of our customers, right? There's just a massive gap there. So anyways, left the banking industry in 2016, and I had no plan. I just knew that I did not want to be inside of a 12 by 12 box for the rest of, my career, and left the banking industry. And I did not have my wife's approval either. We had 2 babies at the time and everything. So it was rough waters after that for a few years. And there was some challenges and everything, because I basically threw us into financial chaos and no consistent sources of income or anything like that. But at the end of the day, I knew I wasn't going to be fulfilled there. And I wanted to try to figure out a way to go out and help the ag industry and help these people. And the tough thing too, that I'll share, working with our customers in the bank is I was a really bad loan officer, Paul. And I tell people that, and they're like, well, what, do you not know the numbers? No, I was a bad loan officer because I couldn't tell people what the bank wanted me to tell them. I told them what they needed to hear, because when I would look at customers across the table from me that were trying to make a big financial decision, I would look at them and I would see my parents in a lot of ways. There's that fear, there's that anxiety, there's life's work literally sitting here on this table, written on these pieces of paper here, that they're risking, and they have no idea whether or not they're making the right decision there. So you can just sense it and you can feel it. But, that was a big reason for me leaving the banking industry. And like I said, left that in 2016. I struggled for 2.5 years as an entrepreneur, didn't know if I was going to make it. And we spent a lot of sleepless nights there, but launched Legacy Farmer in 2019, and the rest is kind of history.
So during that time, right after you left the bank, did you have any sort of plan of what you wanted to do? Or were you looking at going back into farming operations, or what did that look like?
Yeah. So I actually jumped into finances, basically just traditional financial planning, after I left the banking industry, right? I was looking at that method and way there that I could help people. And I actually eventually came across whole life insurance, which I'm sure you've heard about, as far as,
Be your own bank, that type of stuff.
Yep, for sure. Right. So as I got into that, though, when I first started Legacy Farmer, like that's initially what I was doing. But as I was getting people on the phone, I just recognized that people had a lot more problems, and I wasn't going to sell a policy essentially to somebody that had no idea what they were able to do financially. They just didn't know their numbers or anything. And so that's when, that version of Legacy Farmer lasted about 30 days. And then it moved into more of the, group coaching and consulting and really building out this community. And then in 2020 is when we started building out our software and all that type of stuff that I'll get into when you get to those questions.
So you had really driving passion, it sounded like, and you knew you wanted to do something as an entrepreneur. You knew you didn't want to work in like you said, a cubicle the rest of your life. How did you take that passion and figure out a way to focus and direct that to be productive?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, and it's just kind of funny though too, because there's a lot of people, when you think about the words legacy farmer, that's an identity for our customers as well, right? That they identify with that, and they can look themselves in the mirror and say, yeah, well, this is who I am, right? This is what we're fighting for. This is what we're trying to build and stuff. And so even with me, man, I'm in no way a farmer. I help farmers, but ask me if I still identify with that. Absolutely. Right. So when it comes to trying to direct that passion and who we're trying to help, I want to help everybody in ag, because I care about the people in ag, because most of them are really good, down to earth people that would do anything to help anybody out. And those are the people that I want to fight for and help to, know their finances and know where they're going and make the right decisions going forward. It's more about those people, because my parents are some of the best people I have ever known and have ever met. And I look up to them in a lot of different ways, especially after the feed yard and everything went under. I mean, it was a tough 5 years there for them. I mean, imagine that, right? Your entire life
just gone,
falling apart there. And there's all the questions there that they go through that my dad talked to me about. Wondering what would have happened if I would have just left the family operation for a while and went and did something else and experienced something, would this have ever happened and stuff like that. So there's a lot of questions there, but the biggest challenge for them was just going through that identity crisis. Right. So anyways, to answer your question, I do it and try to direct my passion to helping the really good people inside the industry, which is, those are the type of people that we attract in the legacy farmer as well. What's great about our community is everybody there, they're spread across the country, but they all have the same internal core values and they all want the same thing, which means they're all more than willing to try to help each other out, which is great.
What are the biggest issues that you see when somebody first comes to be part of your business? I mean, there's probably very similar things that you see over time with dealing with hundreds of farms, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, biggest thing out there that we solve for people is when they first come in, man, they have no idea where they're at financially, right? There's a lot of them that when it comes to making massive financial decisions, which as well as I do, there's no small financial decisions inside the ag industry anymore. The numbers have gotten so huge that most of these people, man, they're still guessing or shooting from the hip, and their only strategy is really hope and prayer, right? Hoping and praying that things work out. And at the end of the day, none of them have a level of financial certainty that they need when it comes to making these decisions to have any level of financial, confidence or clarity there. So that's the biggest thing that we're helping them out from the get-go, is taking all that financial disorganization and chaos to a place of confidence and clarity, so they just know where the heck they're at financially, which is going to change everything about their business and how they run it going forward.
In what you're doing, are you going through everyone's financial documents and helping them probably at the start put together a balance sheet, put together an income statement? How many come to you that have those things already? Is it quite a bit, or is it usually just starting from scratch?
Yeah. So having it put together already is a loaded question, because in the bank, for example, right, the bank typically requires an annual balance sheet, annual cash flow.
Yeah.
But a lot of people these days, they will literally take their multi-million-dollar balance sheet from last year, mark out some numbers, write in some new ones, initial it, and then hand that into the bank. Right. So to me, that's laughable, because it's a multi-million-dollar operation, and we're not even giving our finances the level of respect they deserve. So typically for most of them, we're starting from ground zero, right? This is the first time that they have a structured, organized process to step into to make sure all the detail is there in their balance sheet and their monthly cash flow projections. Like, it's just a completely different experience for them financially. For a lot of them, there's a huge learning curve, but that's what I wanted to build our business around, was the education. I want people to understand why we're doing what we're doing, why the numbers are saying what they're saying, how they can use our software and basically our community and everything that that we provide going forward there. That education piece has got to be there, because there's so many people there that they just don't have it today. And two, I'm not talking about just small farm operations. I'm not talking about operations that are struggling financially. We've had customers come into Legacy Farmer that are worth $50 to $100 million. And on our first conversation, we're talking about the basics of balance sheet structure. So it's a complete, total industry problem, not just a small segment of hurting farmers or anything like that.
Yeah. I've interviewed a gentleman named Dick Whitman. You might have heard of him. He's pretty big in financial consulting and agriculture for 40, 50 years now. And he does a class out of Texas A&M, and it's all top performers that go to this class, right? That's a week immersive in top performing in their businesses. And he said out of that group, the amount that actually know their numbers is he's been doing it for a number of years, I think 25 years or more now. He said it's actually been declining over time, right? Yeah. You think, well, the technology, the bigger the businesses are now today versus what they were 25, 30 years ago, that it should be getting better. But it's actually getting worse. What do you think that is?
Well, I think it goes back to, what we're taught and trained to believe growing up. So I think there's just a massive gap between, traditional education and reality, right? So everything we learn in the classroom to me is theoretical. There's nothing that I paid $120,000 for my college education. Ask me if I use any of that stuff for what I do today. None, zero. Right. So especially, we have people come in and sometimes some of them will have an ego because they have an ag business degree, but everything we're talking about, they've never seen before.
Yeah.
That these are the questions that they have there. So I think we have to look at, where people are coming from and what we have been conditioned to believe is, what we need to do as society, which is go to college and that type of stuff. But we need to understand that there's a massive gap between theory and reality. And when it comes to actually playing with these numbers here, and one thing that we're trying to do as well, and like you talked about with him saying it's a declining number. The big thing that we're trying to do is get these operations so structured, organized, and educated that the parents can pass on that knowledge to the next generation as well, right? And we're essentially passing on a business in a box where everything is structured, organized, and the education is there too to show them how to use it. I think that's where, another big way that we're trying to impact the industry, because just like Dick said, like that's a huge, huge problem.
Right. I know another big part of your business and something that's been really valuable to me in my business is your peer groups and having accountability. So you want to talk to us a little bit about your thought around that and how you implemented that in your business?
Yeah, for sure. So when people come into, our company and everything like that, we, if they're coming into Legacy Farmer, which Legacy Farmer, we basically have two different offers, right? So we have Legacy Farmer, they're going to get one-on-one coaching, consulting. We're going to walk their hand as we onboard them into the software, but then they get access to the community. They get access to our live events, all that type of stuff there on that side of things. Now, the important thing there is, and just a lot of people, they underestimate the power of accountability, because with our onboarding meetings and stuff like that, these people that are coming in and applying, they're motivated, right? They know that there's massive gaps financially inside the operation. So they want that accountability. And even if you look at some of the testimonials and stuff we've recorded with customers over the years, their number one favorite thing about Legacy Farmer is the accountability. Because otherwise, it's super easy for farmer, rancher, or anybody to get distracted and go do what they want to do versus doing what they should do in a seat inside the operation, like the finance seat, that's much more valuable and deserves much more of your respect than what most people give it. So yeah, we have tried to fine tune and iron out that process. But what's great though, too, just when you talked about the community piece there as well, at our last live event there and everything, our live events, people are always making big decisions, right? They're not coming there with small decisions that they're trying to make or small problems that they're trying to solve there. And so what's nice is they're announcing their commitment in front of everybody, right? And then guess what? They have to come back 3 months later, 4 months later, and they have to return a report on what they've done and how much they've progressed. And for a lot of our customers, none of our customers are going to beat a person down or anything like that. But just that little bit of extra motivation there and accountability is enough to spark people to take some actions inside the industry that most people just honestly just aren't willing to take.
Yeah. Very powerful tool. I know that.
Yeah, for sure.
What are some of the surprises that you've had along the way that surprised you about your customers?
Biggest one that comes to mind is my first customer that was worth in that range of 50 to 100 million, multi-generational family farm operation, that the first conversation I'm going over basic balance sheet structure, right? That was such a, because you have these assumptions, right? And now after stepping out of the bank, I have zero assumptions on anybody anymore. I don't care if you're worth $200 million. I'm going to treat you and talk to you the exact same as I would for somebody that's worth 200 grand. Right. It's just the conversation is the same. And so having those people come in, the biggest shock was it's a multi-generational family farm operation with tens of millions of dollars in real estate. And we're talking about the difference between current, intermediate, and long-term assets or liabilities on your balance sheet. If that doesn't scream, we have a massive problem in the industry, then I don't know what does. Right. And so that's one side of it. The other side of it, though, as well, in working with these customers from across the country, is I was fortunate enough, I worked at two pretty good banks, right? These banks were pretty structured, pretty organized. But now after going in and working with these customers, I've told people this for the last couple of years now. I know that we have a big problem on the farmer side of things and not knowing their finances. I would argue that we have just as big, if not a bigger problem on the ag lender side of things and ag loan officers who don't know ag, or banks that aren't keeping track of their customers and doing the level of due diligence they need to do, that are exposing themselves and their customers to way more risk than what's actually financially feasible for the customer.
Completely agree there. Yeah, I've seen so many so many operations that there was no reason that they should have gotten the money that they did.
No way.
The banker was completely irresponsible, and that's why the business went under. Is the banker should have known better.
100%. Right. Yeah. And so those are the things that we have to watch out for. But when I talk about educating our customers, I want them to master their finances and know them at a deep level, but I also train them on exactly how the bank plays the game of lending. So that they know what they're stepping into, how to handle that conversation, how to present their information, and whether or not they're working with what I call a yes banker. That's the term I use on a lot of my podcasts and videos. And a yes banker is somebody that's literally looking at the equity on your balance sheet and making their decision based off of that, which is just a recipe for disaster and has sunk family operations.
You mind giving us a couple of those key points of what to look for when working with a banker?
Yeah. So biggest thing there too, when we're stepping in, a lot of our customers that come in, some of them are struggling with their banker. The first thing that I want to do though is point out exactly, kind of what reality is, that it's their responsibility to know what the bank is looking at. A lot of farmers and ranchers look at their banker as a partner. And I get that, banks want to market themselves as partners and everything as well. But the reality is, though, the bank is an investor. And the reason I say that is because, like with me, for example, working back in the bank, my last year, I was making $75,000 a year, right? If I'm going to partner with somebody in their business, that means I'm signing on the dotted line with them. I'm taking the same level of financial risk. But when you look at the risk that the customer is taking versus the bank's risk is collateralized, right? They can go sell assets in order to get their money back. What's the customer have? Nothing, right? So is the banker truly a partner inside the operation? Now I've had bankers come in over the years and, basically giving me the middle finger and saying, you don't know. Well, first of all, I was a banker, but second of all, I'm not saying you don't care about the operation, right? I'm not saying that.
Just have a different mindset to it.
Exactly. Right. But I tell our customers, hey, your bank, they are an investor in your operation, not a partner. And as an investor, you need to understand what information they're looking for and how it should be presented. And what I mean by that is you need to know exactly what your financial position is with the bank. We call it your borrowing power, essentially. And you need to know what their position is with you. Right. And once you know these two numbers here inside of our software, we call it borrowing power. And that's how the customer knows what their position is with the bank. And then we call it bank safety net, which is the bank's position with the customer. If you know what those two numbers are, it is going to completely change how you approach the conversation, how you negotiate interest rates, all of that type of stuff when it comes into the bank. So the other side, though, too, is when you talk about just key things that the bank's looking for and what the customer should be presenting, they need to know those two things. But man, they need to be able to just present a simple, detailed, structured, and organized balance sheet and a monthly cash flow projection, not an annual one. Anybody can put together an annual one, but as well as I do, from January 1st to December 31st, how much is that cash flow projection changing? Right?
All the
time. Massive there. So if our customers can literally just present those couple of things there, man, it puts them in the top 3% of farmers or ranchers in the country, to be honest. And the banks, if you have a customer like that from a banker's perspective, you better do anything you can to keep that customer, because they are such a valuable asset to the bank now. And it's going to be the easiest interest they ever make by just having somebody that's structured and organized, in my opinion.
When you were a banker, did you look at that as part of your risk profile? And do you think other bankers look at that? Somebody that's got their numbers together? Or is that really not even considered?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's completely different, man. Just by simply having your numbers structured and organized, you can negotiate 2% interest on your operating line of credits. So the average operating line of credit at the time of this, recording in October 1st, 2024, right, we're still at 9.5%, 10%, right? Whereas a majority of our customers are getting 7 to 8% strictly because they're structured and organized. And they have the leverage there now to be able to negotiate those interest rates, because their banker knows something, and that is they can take their financials and go to any bank in the region and they'll be happy to have them, simply because they're structured and organized and they stand above and beyond all the other customers in the bank.
Moving on to hear your perspective on setting goals. So I think some people look at goal setting like that's a waste of time, just plow forward. Some people are goal setting, going to the bathroom, right? So
yeah, for sure.
Where's that? Where do you fit into that? And your thoughts around how you lead your clients?
Yeah. So with us, every one of them wants to, the common goal is I want to leave a legacy, right? But some of them have financial goals and things like that. And when I'm talking about goals, I'm talking about things that are 5 to 10 years out. Right. Because goals are more broad, right? You have something there, but it's going to be more broad there. It's going to be like shooting a shotgun at a target, right? It could land anywhere based on that time period. When we're talking about 1 to 3 years, I want to have targets, right? And that's how I talk about it with customers, where we're going to establish the long-term goal out there, but then to break it down into what actions we need to take today, we need to have specific targets on what things we're going to accomplish here going forward into the next year to 3 years there, right? And that's how I've always tried to approach it, because again, as you go through the game of business, as you know, the goal changes, right? Depending upon what variables you're facing or what things happen in the business, we have no idea what's going to take place there. That's the biggest thing that we're trying to do with our customers here coming up at our live event in Kansas City in December is it's going to be 2025 business planning on, yes, we've established the goal for a majority of them, but what are the specific targets they need to accomplish in each quarter of 2025 to get us closer to whatever that goal may be.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yep. So that's how I've always approached it. But the other side here though, too, is like if Legacy Farmers taught me anything, it taught me not to become so attached to where we want to go and just go with the motion. Because at the end of the day, man, if you'd asked me 5 years ago when I started this company, if I'd have a full enterprise software right now with the enterprise or with a software team and, all the people that we have under our staff and everything like that, I would have told you dream on. Right. So it's we want to have that goal out in place, but be flexible with the details on how we get there sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times we can underestimate what we're going to do in 5 to 10 years as well, right?
For sure.
Just like what you're talking about. Speaking of your team, let's go. I want to talk a little bit more now about the business from your perspective, and Legacy Farmer as a business. So you've developed it. I mean, I think from the sounds of it, you started it. It was just you, right?
Yeah, correct.
So what does your team look like now? How did you go about building that team?
What's really interesting about everybody on our team is they were customers first. So they actually came in as customers. Joni Krumlacek is our COO, and she's been with me since almost the very beginning. I hired her officially on November 2019, but her husband, Jordan, came in as a customer first. Okay. Right? And then Jordan saw what we were doing and everything like that. And then Joni was looking for a new opportunity. So it ended up just working out. But then just what's funny though, is over the years, everybody that we've brought onto the team has come in as a customer first, and which has been a huge blessing for us, strictly because they know the entire process. They know our system. They know the software. They know what we're trying to do here. And the more important thing is that they're attached to the mission at hand. Mm-hmm. And so we're in alignment there with our values, which has been extremely powerful for us.
Yeah, definitely. What has been the biggest challenges in Legacy Farmer to get it off the ground in your perspective?
Getting it off the ground was the easy part. Building the software is the most challenging thing.
You're not a coder, huh?
No, definitely not a coder there. I work with a software team out of Wichita, Kansas, and I went with them because they built out the software for Kansas Livestock Association. So they at least had some understanding of what we were trying to do and everything. And they've been absolutely great to work with. We worked with them every day since 2020 when we started building the software. But that is by far been the toughest thing to do. I have such a different appreciation for all the tools and stuff that you and I get to use. So for example, just like this podcast recording platform that we're on, man, the amount of coding that goes into the back of these things just to make everything function and work correctly. When it comes to our specific customers though, and the problem that we're trying to solve, I have had to try to think through every possible scenario there and problem and challenge that could come with our customers using our software, right? Building out a software, you have to it forces you to get into the mind of the user and think, okay, based on their perspective, based on their life experiences, based on their experience with technology, whatever that may be, is how are they going to perceive this information? And what I wanted to do, one skill that I feel I am pretty good at is taking really complex information and dumbing it down into one simple, format there. And that's the number one thing that we wanted to do with our customers, where with all the financials and all the numbers and everything that go into, running a family farm operation, at the end of the day, our customers, the number one problem that they were looking to solve is they needed some level of financial certainty when it came to making a purchase decision, right? Yep. Or, buying a new piece of ground or whatever that is. And so I really built our software and focused on keeping it very simple, very user-friendly, but having all this information funnel into one single number that tells our customers, hey, yes, this is a good decision, or no, it's not a good decision, and gives them the ability to game plan different scenarios, run what-if scenarios, that type of stuff, shows them how to, have that conversation with their banker and stuff like that. But man, going through that 4 years now into that, there's so much work that goes through that and trying to design and shape a software a certain way where it's going to be valuable to the user.
Yeah. It's a lot more work than what most people think it is from the outside, isn't it?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Including myself. And I only have one version of it. I can't imagine what it takes to build, some of these bigger platforms like a Facebook, Instagram, or anything like that.
One problem that a lot of entrepreneurs have, I think, especially in agriculture, is we build the business around ourselves, and we have a really hard time of scaling our businesses because of that, because we're not scalable, right? Outside of maybe educating ourselves a little bit more. But how did you go about in your business, or do you feel like you're at that level right now where you're trying to scale beyond yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So I think every business owner is going to go through this. So this is actually a part of our process when we bring people into Legacy Farmer, because we have had people come in, man, they got a team of 10 to 20 people, and the business it's surrounding them, right? They've built a centralized operation where every question, every decision, every conversation has to go through them as the business owner. And they wonder why they can't get away to go take a vacation with their wife after 20 or 30 years or something like that, you know? And so part of our process is we help our customers go from building and creating that centralized operation, breaking it down and building a decentralized operation to where we have an accountability chart set up. We basically are fine tuning what is everybody's responsibility and role inside the operation. And then also too, how is communication supposed to flow? Because a business owner like you or me, I only have a certain amount of mental bandwidth per day, right? So I need to control what information is coming into my world. It's the same thing for our customers inside a Legacy Farmer as well. So anyways, I kind of answered your question there talking about what we're doing with our customers. The only reason we're able to do that is because I had to do that with myself as well. Right. I had to get structure. I had to get organization. And the most important thing was roles and responsibilities and setting clear standards on how communication is supposed to flow. And the thing is too, is with these bigger operations, that's the number one problem they face. Right. Yep. Is not, they're not clear on communication. Everybody's being told multiple different things. And the thing that we don't think about is, you know, when you have a team of 3 people, essentially, there's 3 lines of communication, but every additional person that you add to a team, the potential lines of communication expand drastically. So you jump to 4 people. Now all of a sudden you have 6 possible lines of communication. Imagine 12 to 18 people on the team. And how much, whatever, it could have just been a simple job to do that the owner said, hey, we need to get this done today. But now it's been watered down or changed with every person that's sharing it. And that just causes a world of problems, as you could probably guess.
Right. How do you deal with both in the business of Legacy Farmer and with your clients, the perspective of emotions? You know, emotions plays a big role sometimes in decision making, in how we interact with each other, especially some of the conversations that you're having with clients that are in some issue, hot water, maybe financially. That's probably one of the reasons that they're coming to you looking for help. So how do you deal with that aspect of business?
Yeah. So what's interesting, we have a lot of customers that, they'll initially schedule a call with our team. They'll talk to, Joni or Tristan on our team, and they're both sweethearts and good team members for sure. But a lot of people, when they come in, the number one fear and I'm talking from a man's perspective, is to be exposed of the problems or weaknesses that we have. Mm-hmm. Right. And so what is interesting, the number one thing that they're coming here for, financial clarity, is also the number one thing that scares them. Because once you get the numbers put into our system, there's no more hiding, right? So the emotions are going to be there. But the thing is, though, is, with our customers, like for some of them, yeah, it's painful discovering what the numbers are. But guess what? Now we at least have a starting point into changes that we can make in the business. And now everything they do as a business owner is going to change going forward, right? But we have to at least have that starting point there versus what's their alternative? Well, I'll just see how things go for this year, continue to guess on these massive numbers, and I'll find out, once I get my tax return back, how much money I made last year, which, tax return isn't even going to tell you that. But that's the type of game there that a lot of people play. And then they come back here like a year or 2 later and they're like, yeah, I'm still in the same position. I need to go through this. Yeah. Or worse, so when it comes to dealing with those emotions there, we talk about a framework here that I learned from one of my other mentors. And it's about basically when you're coming into any type of, emotion or discovery of your finances or whatever that is, the framework is like this. It goes facts, feelings, focus, fruit. And so once we discover what the facts is, we need to understand and give somebody some time to process the feelings or emotions like you're talking about, to go through that. Once they've had time to go and work through that, which is why, our onboarding with customers is typically 3 or 4 meetings, because some of them, the tougher conversations, they need time to process it, right? To let this settle in and accept it in a lot of ways. But we go from facts to feelings. And then once we work through feelings, now all of a sudden we have focus. Right. And focus is, okay, this is what we need to do. These are the things that we need to change. And then the fruit ultimately becomes the results that they get long-term there. But we have to respect the time frame of that process. And that's something I train our account managers on when they're working with customers, that they are dealing with a lot of emotions. Okay, great. end the call, give them some space. We'll go ahead and schedule the next call, but give them time to process those emotions, because some of them, and some of the financial problems and challenges, like that's the first time they've ever had to face the reality of those decisions they've made. Right. And as a man, I know for me internally, with a wife and children from 2016 to 2019, feeling like I was failing over and over again, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders there, so you got to give people the appropriate amount of time to process those emotions for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So Jace, you mentioned a mentor of yours, right? How is mentorship been in your life, developing your business, and what do you have? What does that look like for your clients, I guess? Are you encouraging that?
Yeah, for sure. So, when it comes to mentors and everything, so I go back to like where I grew up, right? So I'm not sure how big the town was that you grew up in, but small town, Western Kansas, your mind isn't really any bigger than Western Kansas or that small town, when you're growing up. And everybody there, nobody hires mentors. Nobody looks for people that are ahead of them when it comes to business or life and things like that. And, my first major investment into a mentor was in 2017. I paid essentially $35,000 that I did not have at the time, but I needed that reality check, right? I needed something to change, and I needed to talk to somebody that was ahead of the game of business, that far ahead than what I was, right? And so the thing is man, you go and find the right mentor. One, they're going to speed up your process to success drastically. But if your goal is to make money, man, there's no bigger power, in my opinion, than learning what. I guess I'll share a quote that has always stuck with me. It's a guy wrote this book. His name's Keith Cunningham. He wrote the book. It's called The Road Less Stupid, which I love the name of that. But he was a big investor in real estate, lost a ton of money, filed bankruptcy, all this type of stuff. But he has a quote in the book that he says, "A majority of success is found in learning what not to do versus learning what to do." Right? What not to do versus learning what to do. And so that's the biggest reason that, I'll continue to always invest in mentors or networks and things like that, because it's not when people talk about, they've reached this level of success and stuff like that, I don't remember what they did to get there, but you can damn sure know that I'm going to remember the mistakes that they made along the way. And the thing is, man, that's so valuable. And we do the same thing inside of our community as well. We'll have a weekly community call where everybody jumps on. I will literally pull up somebody's financials if they want to work through a financial decision or something like that. And we'll do it in front of everybody, right? Obviously I have their permission to do that, but man, think about being a young farmer, 25, 30, coming in here and hearing of some of the problems and challenges or decisions that people are facing 45 or 50 and how they got there. The mistakes they made that led them there. How valuable is that? So when I talk about mentors there, I'm not saying that I'm the only mentor in the group. We have tons of customers that are the mentors because they've been in farming for so long and they want to help other people not make the same mistakes, which, yeah, that type of stuff. Just not even talking about from, what it'll save you financially, but think about the marriages that would be saved. Think about the lives that would be saved. We talk about suicide that we have in this industry and the problems and real challenges that people are dealing with. Man, if we can just get this information out there to help more people, then isn't that what we're here to do?
Well, and that brings up another point. I know one thing that I'm really adamant about is not just looking at my financial health, but also all the areas of your life that are really important. And I know that's something that's really important to you as well. So you want to talk a little bit about that? How do you weave that into what you're doing?
Yeah. So there's another framework, again, that I got from one of my other mentors. The framework is around body, being, balance, and business. And so body is all about obviously physical health and how you're feeding and fueling your body. Being is about your connection to God, but ultimately your stories that operate and run up here, the 6 inches between your ears. Balance is going to be your important relationships. Like, with me, it's my wife and kids and everything like that. And then you got business, right? Which is finances and things like that. So we will literally lead people through that framework there, because a lot of people, they're coming in because they potentially have business problems, right? But once you dig into it, though, you start to notice that, hey, actually the problem, the initial problem doesn't exist in business. It exists in balance because they have their marriage is falling apart, or relationship with mom and dad who are also involved in the operation is terrible, right? Those are the things that we have to work for. Or from a being standpoint, they're so disconnected from God, or they have such negative stories consuming their mind on a day-to-day basis because they feel like such a failure, like they're never going to get out of this situation or whatever that is, that we have to handle those things first, right? Or they're out of shape, massively. They don't take care of their body, which, as you know, is going to massively, impact how they make decisions, when they make decisions, and really just their level of clarity when it comes to doing that. So anyways, we call this Core 4. Again, that was from one of my mentors, but The thing is the other concept that we'll use there is what we call the pain web, and how problems in one area will bleed into other areas as well. So our focus is pinpointing the biggest problem, even if it's not in business when people first come in. Yes, that's what everybody wants. We will give them that. But the thing is, though, is in order to really impact and help these people in a big way, man, we got to try to help them in the other areas of life as well.
I want to dig a little bit deeper into one of those frameworks that you just talked about. And I know you brought it up a couple of times, was your faith. How do you feel that changes how you operate your business and what drives you?
You think about farmers and ranchers today, and every single year when things start going bad, right? So, for example, I know that the price rollover and things that we've had happen past couple of years. Obviously, it sends everybody into just a really kind of a mental prison there, right? Mm-hmm. And they are wondering and question why they're doing this again and things like that. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, though, is like if you ask most customers, it's like, okay, great, John, I'll just use an example there. John, how many years in a row now have you been going broke? And it's like 28 years, 28 or 30 years. And it's like, okay, really? So if God did not want you here at this moment and you weren't meant to be farming or doing what you're doing, guess what? He would have taken you out 28 years ago and he would have ended it then. So as I've gotten older, had kids and stuff like that, man, you just get some life behind you, and you just got to look at, again, why things happened. And, no matter what we're telling ourselves up here, it's like every time I was at a place where I thought I was at a breaking point, all of a sudden the next door opened, that God opened for me. And I was like, okay, great. We made it out of this one. Now we're going on to the next one. It's like, so when you look at those things, and even looking at the sequence of events from our family operation going under to me going through the bank to certain things that had to happen in the bank in order for me to leave and everything, like, man, the timeline of those events and what we've created today, it's, and people that I think it kind of shocks them when I say this, but I tell our group, I'm like, hey guys, none of you are here right now unless my grandfather loses everything. Like, they're not. Otherwise, I'm back at the feed yard. Guarantee I'm back at the feed yard right now, working there versus doing what we're doing here. And so it's just, you look at the timeline, it's inarguable that God is active in every one of our lives, and you just got to appreciate it, trust the process. And hopefully that builds a little bit of peace and patience for people, because it definitely has for me.
Yeah. Definitely gives you a bigger vision than what's just in it for you, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you got to have that. Otherwise, I feel people eventually lose sight of their purpose, right? And I was going through just some work this morning, and at the end of the day, if I don't create, then am I really honoring God's will? Like he I feel that our Creator put all of us here to create. Right. And if we're not creating, it means we're confused. It means we're disconnected. It means a lot of things there. And I can only say that because I've been there. Right. And, just like doing this podcast, man, it like feeds your soul. Right. It feeds your purpose here. It reminds me, and even having these conversations as to why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing, the people that we're impacting, the mission that we're on. Like, you can just tell this. And that's why I always push all of our customers and even our team members there to create in some way. Right. And try to do something that's going to light that fire for you and keep it burning, because we all going to need, some level of fulfillment at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I know usually when I'm at my lowest, if I go out and help somebody, even if I don't want to, it makes you feel way better.
Oh man, so much better.
Because that's what we're created to do, right?
Agreed.
Like you said. So great. Well, hey, I want to be conscious of your time. I really appreciate you being on the podcast today, Jace. You have a podcast as well, Legacy Farmer Podcast, right?
Yep, Legacy Farmer, the podcast. And then if anybody wants to learn more about Legacy Farmer by itself or our software, they can go to legacyfarmer.com or farmermetrics.com. And we just built out that webpage that is strictly just on our software and everything that they can do there, and how we're helping, again, customers go from chaos and disorganization to a place of confidence and clarity, and turn into grade A customers for their banks. But more important thing that farmers are going to want to hear is they're going to have complete leverage over their banks. So that's our goal too.
Awesome. And we'll put links to that in our show notes as well. So check that out. So, well, thank you so much for being here today, Jace. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, man. I really appreciate you inviting me on.
Well, that's it for today's episode with Jace Young, founder and CEO of Legacy Farmer. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I've got a lot of wisdom out of what Jace had to share with us today. And if you feel like you want to learn more, please check out our show notes. Check out his podcast. I've been listening to that for a while now, and he shares a lot of good nuggets of wisdom, what he's learning in the development of his business and working with his clients. So as always, if you felt like you've gotten value out of this episode, please share it with somebody that you know. We would really appreciate it. That's how we grow our audience here at the Ag Culture Podcast. And until next week, I'm Paul Windemuller, and this has been the Ag Culture Podcast. Thanks for listening.